So let's talk about my pension versus inflation. So when I retired, and before I retired, we made sure to pay off our mortgage on a house. That was before we downsized to an apartment, and the apartment was half the cost of the house. So before I retired, we paid off the house so that our monthly payments, our monthly expenses would be much, much lower without a mortgage, obviously. That made living on my pension just about even. There was no money left over at the end of the month for any luxuries like traveling. In Japan right now, going 200 miles an hour on a Shinkansen. So yeah, my pension just about covered our basic living expenses. Okay, so for example, the average cop, let's say, retires with $50,000 a year, and depending on where you live, you might be like, "Oh my God, 50,000—that's a lot." 50,000 in New York City is poverty. It's poverty. Yeah, and you won't even own anything, right? So we made sure we paid off our house so that we owned the house outright, so that we could live okay lifestyle with no luxuries. All the luxuries are provided by our dividends and after tax accounts, right? So and then we downsized, and the downsizing was not necessarily to save money. The downsizing was so that we can do this all year long, because all you got to do is turn a lock. I don't even deadbolt my apartment. I just let it close, and then that's it. We go off for like whatever 3-4 weeks long, traveling somewhere. So saving money was actually an afterthought. So the apartment was actually half the price of the house, and thereby the monthly expenses were also slightly lower than the monthly expenses on a house. So if we hadn't done that, my pension would not be covering much of our basic living expenses right now. So as is, over the last 7 years since I retired, my pensions dropped probably about 25%, meaning that inflation has increased by about 25% in the last 7 years. So my pension, let's say of $50,000 a year, it's worth right now about, what is it, 37,000. In another 7 years or so, when I'm 15 years out of retirement, my $50,000 pension will feel like it's 25,000. What can you do in New York City with $25,000? You can't do much, which is why you absolutely need to have a 401k, 457 IRA, etc., to keep up and outpace inflation. Because let me tell you, the folks that I used to work with in the I did it like two times a week of a security gig. They were all retired cops. They all retired 20 years ago, and 20 years ago their pensions of 20,000 was okay. Was okay, right? Just barely getting by in New York City. Now 20,000, what does it buy? Nothing, nothing. When the average one-bedroom apartment rents for $2,000, that's $24,000 after taxes, right? It might as be 30,000 pre-tax. So absolutely, it doesn't do anything, and that's why these former cops are all working 60, 70 hours a week as security guards, like I was. But I only worked 15 hours, 2 times a week, 7, 8 hours each, 15, 16 hours a week. I only did that for fun. They have to work 60, 70 hours in order to maintain a basic lifestyle. So, yeah, pension isn't a fix-all. You need to have an IRA, 401k, etc., in order to keep up and hopefully outpace inflation. Because if you're just keeping up, you're maintaining your basic lifestyle. Maybe you need to outpace inflation in order to have slightly better things in the future than what you have now. All right, we're headed toward Osaka on a high-speed rail.